It is the month of May, and Widowhood Real Talk with Tina is celebrating our founder's birthday. Yes, that's me. And we invite you to help us celebrate. And how? By donating $5 in the month of May. 5 and 5. See what we're doing there with that? And how do you do that? Text Hopeful Hearts to 53555. Thanks for helping us celebrate and supporting a worthy cause. Let's get into this episode. Hello, Widowhood. I am your host, Tina Cornwall. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. Our guest today, Miss Jazmyn Kent, will share with you her journey through grieving. I am so glad that you were able to be here today. I am sorry for the person that you have lost that has driven you to this conversation. But if you are interested in sharing your journey or interested in sponsoring a podcast or being one of our sponsors for other events, please email me at widowhoodrealtalk@gmail.com. Let's get into this conversation.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Jazmyn. Welcome to the Widowhood.
Hello, Tina. Thank you for having me.
So Widowhood, I'm out here scouring, looking for people. But this was not a search. Jazz and I were actually connected by a mutual friend, Martin, whose podcast aired last year. And Martin became, I'll let you tell about how you met Martin, then I'll go from there.
I met him through my platform, Traveling Through Grief. I believe first the Facebook group.
Okay.
Because we follow each other on Instagram and TikTok. But I want to say it was first through Facebook, where I haven't done it in a while, but we do in addition to just how Facebook groups go, we do Zoom calls where it's just like whoever wants to participate participates. So it's sort of kind of like group therapy. So that's how I met Martin, and then from him I met you, and then his lovely lady.
I know. We won't talk about her because she ain't made it to the podcast yet. She's coming up. She is. We talked about it, but so that's the connection. But I want to talk about and it's not just I want to jump into where we are now. How did we get here? So with that being said, where are you from originally?
Philadelphia.
Oh, and where do you still live now?
Philadelphia. Just temporarily, because we about to move, because the Lord is saying you have to go.
Maybe it's temporary. It may not be permanent. So in the same area of Philadelphia, or
no, I'm not in the same neighborhood anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in a different neighborhood.
So what's the furthest you traveled from Philadelphia?
Travel period? I don't know what's the furthest. I've been Italy that way, Hawaii that way, and then down in the Caribbean that way.
Okay, good. and so Hawaii. Ooh, those are two different areas, Italy and Hawaii. What took you to both those areas?
Italy was a family trip. Hawaii was just a solo trip.
Okay.
And then the Caribbean is like girls' trip.
Oh, okay.
Vacations,
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Those are good times. So high school, grammar school, in Philadelphia area. Any type of, what am I trying to say? Okay, podcast teams, please scratch that. I don't know where I'm at. Okay, let's back up. Philadelphia.
So I went to college.
No, I need to ask the question because I messed up. I'm over here babbling. So high school, grammar school in Philly, what was your education after that?
I went to Temple. Temple University. Graduated in I ain't gonna say what year I graduated because people could try to date me, but
Oh,
graduated
wow.
some years ago.
And what was your major?
Psychology.
Okay, is that the field you practice in?
Well, right now, well, yeah, it is social work.
Oh,
Still
yes,
along the same lines, yeah.
absolutely. Okay. So,
Still listening to people's problems.
so you have a passion for that if you're still doing it.
I don't know if it's a passion. It's just something that has just always followed me.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
But you followed it back.
yeah,
You have. Okay.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so any children, husband, I think there's a husband if I recall correctly. And how'd you guys meet?
We met in a lift.
Okay, hold on. Imagine this is T. I want to know.
We met in a lift. And from there, like after we met, we went on a date maybe like a week or two later. And then from that point, we've just been like that,
Hold on.
like
You talk
Velcro.
about like a lift, like a
A lift,
Uber.
like, a Uber lift. Yeah.
Okay. So there was
We met
multiple.
in a ride share.
Oh, okay, okay. Ride share. Okay. How long ago was that?
2017.
Okay.
2017.
So we go from I'm sorry, a Lyft ride share to dating. What did the engagement look like?
We got engaged a year later,
Okay.
then got married a year later after that, then had our daughter a year later after that.
How did he propose?
At my family reunion,
Oh, so you were surprised.
I was surprised. I thought we were taking a group picture. Um, so they were handing out roses. And I thought everybody was just getting a rose like in memory of my grandma.
Okay.
Um, and then for some reason I like all my family was like circling me. And then I turned around and then he was on one knee.
And did you cry, run away, stand there, fall out? What happened?
I didn't cry. I was in shock because I didn't expect like what is happening right now? You know what I mean? Because I thought it was just we were just there for my family reunion, but it
Mm,
ended up being my engagement, and it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful day.
it sounds like
Um,
it.
it was. So that was the engagement. Yeah.
Mm,
Then
okay.
we
And
had champagne and crab legs after, and it was good.
look at that smile. You still glowing, still glowing. What do you
My
remember?
baby.
Okay. And what do you remember from the wedding?
The wedding was beautiful. The wedding was beautiful, but it's like bittersweet
Okay.
because that's when my son passed away the week before we got married.
Okay. So
Yeah.
and your son's name?
Khalid,
And and how old was he?
23.
23. What are some of your favorite memories of your son?
He was funny.
Okay.
Like he was hilarious. He was like the class clown. Like he was slick with his mouth, which, when he was younger, we would clash. But
Right.
as he became an adult, you know how like it's so funny because as a parent, like the parent-child relationship, the dynamics change when they become adults. And
Yes.
you can have like adult conversations with your
Yes.
children. You know what I mean? So like the slick mouth as a teenager, it used to grind my gears, but then as an adult, I used to just think it was like funny. Like,
Oh, okay. There is
yeah.
something. So, okay, you bring up a good point. For parents that are having children becoming adults, how do you make that shift from I'm your parent and you're always going to be your parent, but now giving them adulting space? How
Hmm.
does one do that?
I don't know. For us, it sort of kind of happened organically, right?
Okay.
Because I can't speak for everybody's kid, but for my child specifically, like there was a turning point. You know how, like, when kids are teenagers, they don't really understand your parenting, why you do the things you do. They
Mm,
think that you're hard on them and all of those things. But then it became a point where it started to shift and he started to see it through a different lens.
mm,
And he was like, thank you for making me do things on my own because it taught me this, or thank you for that because it taught me that. And like, I really appreciate you as a mom. Like, you really looked out for me. You made sacrifices for me. Like, he got to a point where he really appreciated me as his parent, and I wasn't like the enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of choices that you have to make when you're raising a child, and
Mm-hmm.
being their friend is not on the top of their list
Yeah.
because you're trying to raise them to adulthood. Were you a single mom or?
No, his dad was involved.
Okay.
I had my son at 17.
Okay.
So young. So, like when you're young and you're trying to raise kids, you don't really know what you're doing. So you make a lot of mistakes. But his dad was there.
We make
Um,
mistakes no matter what age it is. I just,
yeah,
for the record, because
yeah.
especially the first one, it's
So
like, hope this works.
when he was younger, his dad lived around the corner from me.
Oh, okay.
But then, as we got older and no longer teenagers in our 20s, we both moved, so we moved further away. So then he wouldn't see him as much, but he would spend summers with his dad. And then when he became like older teenage college years, his college, like his dad is still there, but not like mom, because we there all the time.
And his
You know
mom.
what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So where did he go to college?
Lincoln University.
Okay, you said that sad like it wasn't Temple. Like, okay, we'll forgive him for that.
Well, I have my gripes with Lincoln, but
Okay.
it's cool.
Okay, we'll brush over that. But I could tell the demeanor. It was like, Lincoln. So tell me, when when you hear your son's name, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of him?
My baby.
Mm,
Yeah, that's what I think about. Like, I used to call him my love. That was my love. And then he would call me mother love. So like that's my baby.
oh wow, that
Yeah.
is beautiful. I never heard you mention that before. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Like sometimes you forget certain things because it's like I haven't heard that in so long. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, but yeah.
It is. Grief has a way of robbing some of our memories, and they slowly start coming back. The purpose of this conversation is to give you space to share about your son and your journey. So I don't want to burden the conversation with a lot of questions. I want to give you space to share whatever point you want to with that, until his passing, how you want to share that part.
Yee.
Or you prefer me to ask you questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How old was your son when he passed?
He was 23.
23. 23. And what was the cause of his death?
My nephew
Okay.
shot and killed him. Why? Hell no. Have I spoken to him? Hell no. Do I
Okay.
plan on speaking to him? No, I don't need to speak to him. He did what he did, and he has to suffer the consequences of that. Um, I don't like the nephew who I knew
Yes.
no longer exists to me.
Mm. So when you say nephew, that
My
tells me,
sister's son. Yeah.
right. How
Like
is
I
that?
changed his diapers. Him and my son were close. They
Right.
grew up like brothers. Like we're a really close-knit family. So,
Hmm.
my son, I have three nephews. One sister has no, I have four nephews. But like my son and the three nephews who are all like around the same age, all raised like brothers.
And you make a point that sometimes we won't have answers for things,
Mm-hmm.
and you can spend a lot of time thinking that you need an answer.
Mm-hmm. You
What
don't.
and how were you able to determine an answer wasn't necessary for you?
For me, an answer is not necessary because no matter what the answer is not going to be like no answer is good enough or justifies my son's life being taken. You see what I'm saying? So like
Right.
you can't say anything to me. Like nothing. It's nothing that you can say that would make me be like, okay, no.
It does
So
not.
I don't need anything. All I know is my son is not here. That's all I need to know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's all I need to know.
How has that changed the dynamics of your family?
Well, God is good because
Mm,
it hasn't,
wow.
right? Me and my sister, we still talk on the phone. We still see each other. We still do family dinners, Sunday dinners. Like we still cool. That's my sister. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I know like she's not responsible for it. I know
Right.
the type of mother she is and how my nephew was raised. So it's like I don't fault her or blame her. I know when it first happened, she thought that I blamed her, so she distanced herself from me. Um, and I had a talk with her about that. And I let her know, like, you don't have to because I don't blame you. So like she's my sister and I love her.
That is what people dreamed that they would show up that way, that they would show up in a sincere way to look at it
Mhm.
holistically. But I'm sure you deal with people that don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because at the end of the day, like some people need to blame somebody, right? And it's like, well, if they can't, take their anger out on the person who did it, then they're going to take it out on maybe the closest person to them, right?
Yes.
But I I don't the type of person that I am just naturally I don't hold grudges or like I'm not a mean person. I don't hold on to things.
Okay.
Um so it's just like it's what's the point in blaming my sister or even even holding a grudge against my nephew. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Mm.
I don't fuck with you. I don't know if I can curse or not.
Girl,
Like I don't
you,
fuck
you
with
say
you.
you say what you say.
However, like I forgive you because as a Christian, if I
Hmm.
don't forgive you, I'm gonna block my blessings. The
Right.
Lord won't forgive me. Like you're not worth me blocking my blessings.
Mm.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Oh, for
So
sure.
it's
But you don't
like
mess with him like that no more.
I forgive you, but you're nobody to me anymore. Like the day you killed my son is the day you died to me.
And that's fair. And two questions. Is your nephew incarcerated?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
He was locked up the same day it happened.
So some people may say, how can you forgive them if you don't talk to them?
Because forgiveness isn't for him, it's for me.
Yes.
Like when you hold on to unforgiveness, it's a heavy weight on you, right?
Yes.
Unforgiveness shows up in a myriad of ways. It could show up physically, it could show up spiritually, emotionally. You took enough away from me when you took my son, right?
Yes.
I can't let you take anything else away from me, right? So
Mm,
you're not going
okay.
to take my mind. You're not going to take my emotions. You're not going to take my life because you took
Yes.
enough from me. So there you go. Like, I forgive you. That's it. I don't think about you. I don't nothing. Like you're nothing. You're nobody to me. And that's just it.
And that is important. Thank you for sharing that because there are other people that have lost loved ones at the hands of someone else and
Mm-hmm.
spend a great deal amount of time struggling right there about the anger, how they can never forgive this person, how
Mm-mm.
they hope horrible things for them. But what they're really doing, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Like what for people like that, or for anybody who has ever wronged me, like I forgive you, but I pray that you get exactly what you deserve, whatever that is.
Right. But you're not
Take it up
holding
with
that.
God because God is
Right.
going to fight my battles. And one thing's for sure, whoever has wronged me will be punished, whether I know about the punishment or not. Like that's just how life go, right?
It
There's
does.
a every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right?
Yes.
So whatever wrong you put out there, it's going to come back to you. I don't have to do anything. Let God handle it. My
That is,
hands are free.
yes. What year was it that your son passed?
2019. 2019.
2019. What do you remember about that year?
About that year, a lot. Because it started off as a good year because we were in the wedding planning process,
Right.
right? So we're in the wedding planning process. I'm excited about the wedding, just doing all of the wedding things. And then it's like you're floating on a cloud, just like la 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 la, right? And then it's
Mm.
like you get hit by a Mack truck, right? So that's what happened. And then it was just like, it was just the worst thing. Like, it was awful. You know what I mean? Like when I got the phone call of my mother just screaming and crying, actually, like the day that it happened, when I got the phone call, I was actually on my way to the reception hall to put down the rest of the money for the reception. So then my mom called, then I had to cancel that and just go straight to my sister's house where it happened. And it was just awful. It was terrible. Um, my husband, who was my fiance at the time, he was like, listen, you don't have to go through with the wedding. We can cancel the wedding. I just want to do whatever you want to do. I just want to be here for you.
Mm.
This is a lot. Maybe we should cancel it, right? And I'm like, no, we're not going to cancel it because my son was really excited about my wedding because so my son was going to walk me halfway down the aisle to my dad, and then my dad was going to take me the rest of the way.
Aw.
So my son, he was really excited about my wedding. So I was like, no, we're still going to get married on the day that we're going to get married. We're not going to postpone anything. Um, I'm going to do it for my son. Like,
Okay.
that's what gave me the strength. And we did it. Um, God is so good because my wedding was 3 days after my son's funeral. So I was planning a wedding and a funeral
Right.
now. But the wedding was beautiful. Like, God shielded me and protected me. And I was able to just really enjoy my wedding day fully.
Wow.
Now, after the wedding day,
That's an emotional roller coaster.
it was
Yes.
just like, it wasn't so good. You know, like 2 days later, we went on our honeymoon. It was awful because like I just wasn't in the right headspace. But
Right.
it was an awful honeymoon for me. Um, but it was actually nice to get away
Yes.
from people asking you questions. Like, it's nice to have people check up on you and everything, but sometimes you just want to I don't want anybody to ask me anything, say anything. I just don't want to be around people. So it was actually nice to just get away from everybody.
Thank you for explaining that. And you bring up a point that is that duality of I don't want to be around people, but I also feel like I'm alone and I don't want to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
How did you manage that after coming back from the honeymoon?
Well, I I took time off. I took like 3 months off from work to just be, right? My husband got me out the house. He was amazing. Well, still is amazing, but amazing support. Got me out of the house. I, did some because he's a entrepreneur. So, I was out with him while he was working. Um, and then when I just wanted to be alone, I just wanted to be alone. But for a while, I just was just me or just me and him, and that was just it. And then at some point, it was fairly early on, I told myself mentally, like, in order for you to move on, not move on, but in order for you to live,
Yes.
you have to live, right? So then I forced myself to get out, whether I wanted to or not. Like, I forced myself to attend baby showers and family functions and go out to dinner and just do stuff that I really didn't feel like doing. Because if I didn't, I would stay in that black hole, right? So I would go out. If I didn't want to stay, I would leave, but at least I made the attempt, right?
Yes.
So I knew that I had to keep participating in life, right? I knew that I wanted to have another child. We planned her before she was even here. Me and my son talked about her before I even met my husband. Like, you know what I mean? So like
Right.
I had plans for my life and I was like, well, I have to show up and participate because if I don't, I'm not going to have another kid, right? If I don't, I'm not going to have a good marriage. If I don't, I'm probably going to end up strung out on drugs somewhere, right?
Yes.
So, like, I knew all of these things. I was like, I just have to keep moving forward.
And in doing that, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that explanation. I'm sure, like you mentioned, you may have went and come home early. You may have gone and sat outside in the car, cried, sometimes didn't make it in, and sometimes you did. And that, I think people see you showing up, see us showing
Mm-hmm.
up, but they don't realize the level of effort that it
Mm-hmm.
takes to show up. And
Yeah.
also the times that you don't show up, it's not about them or their party. It's not about their event.
Yeah.
It's about managing and dealing in this new life that you're in without your
Mm-hmm.
son being there. Were there people in your life that showed up to help or be alongside of you in this process?
Yeah. Like that. All right. So I have an amazing group of girlfriends, an amazing group of cousin sisters, but I didn't realize how amazing they were until I was in a space where I needed people. Like it's one thing to have people, your girlfriends, your friends, your cousins and everything, like when everything is okay.
Right.
Life is good. You don't like you're not going through anything major. But like when that happened, they showed up like the Cowboys, right? And
Nice.
they were there and still are. They are just amazing. I am surrounded by amazing women just
Hmm.
all around who hold me up, have held me up, and still hold me up. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, I can't complain. My girls are everything.
You
Like,
and I,
I have
yes,
really great support. I really do. Like, at home, I have support. Outside of home, I have support. I'm really blessed. I really am blessed.
you are, and that is something that we have in common. The ability that we still have a great support system, that our family, our friends, they rallied. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't disappear. And
Mm-hmm.
as you talked about your ability to push yourself into showing up, I wonder if that gave them space and permission to know they were welcome to keep doing life with you. Because I'm sure in the work you deal with, some people, a death of this magnitude will allow them to shrink back from life and just not have the capacity to show up. And then
Mm-hmm.
people sort of dwindle away because it's not opening. I mean, it's a hard thing to be there with somebody, but it
Yeah.
sounds as if your friends knew how to just sit with you in those good
Mm-hmm.
days, in those bad days, in those I ain't took a shower and it's snotty days. They knew how to just be with you. Of
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
course,
grateful.
I am too, because I know I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't for that entire community.
Yeah, baby.
What are some things that you recommend for people that are trying to deal with this type of grief? Because I know people say you don't compare griefs, but there's a thing in our society where we don't anticipate our children leaving this world before us.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help other people that are going through similar situations?
That's hard, but then easy at the same time, if that makes sense, right? Because it's like grief. I guess to me, it's just like grief. So, like, specifically for women who have lost children, or even men, there are some men, because I am a part of that club, I guess they sort of kind of feel a connection, right? So then it's easy, like, usually they're in my DMs or contact me some type of way. Hold on, baby, not right now, not right now, not right now. So they connect with me some type of way, but then because I guess they see how I manage my grief, or like I don't always show, well, I haven't cried online, but like if I'm having a bad day, I'll talk about it, right? So I just talk about however I'm feeling. Grief is grief, and I ain't feeling it today. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So because I'm so genuine about my journey, people feel like they can open up and talk to me. So they'll, just tell me about whatever their story, how they're dealing, how they're struggling, or how well they're doing. And I'll give them, advice on what has helped for me, right?
Yes.
I can't tell anything that hasn't worked for me. So it's just real advice or like coping skills, or it's just like sometimes you just got to feel it. It doesn't feel good, right?
Right.
Sometimes you just got to celebrate your wins, and that win might be taking a shower that day.
Right.
Right? It's not necessarily you out here partying and having fun. It just might just be you getting up, waking up and being here. Because some days you might not feel like being here, but you got to keep pushing. Because if you put the work in, you're not always going to feel like that. Like, yes, you're still going to be heartbroken. Yes, you may be happy and sad. And that's just, you're forever happy and sad, sad and happy. One day, sadness might be more prevalent than the happiness, vice versa. But you just keep waking up, you just keep pushing, you just keep participating. God is good, right? God has a way of giving you peace. Like I can't explain it. It's not by my own doing,
Right.
right? But it truly is peace that surpasses all understanding. Like I'm at peace. I'm at peace. Do I like my situation? No, I can't do anything about it, right? But I deserve to live. I
Indeed.
deserve to live. I do. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to have good experiences. Like being depressed, like in a constant state of depression, that's not my portion in life, right? Like the person who took my son away, you can't give me that sentence of depression. Like it's about power, right? So like with my grief, I choose to take power over my grief,
Okay.
right? Some days I manage it better than other days, but it's like I refuse to lose my life, meaning I refuse to just lay down and let grief overtake me. I
Mm.
refuse, right?
Yes.
Like it's funny because me and my husband had a conversation, I think it was yesterday. He asked like, why don't I get my nails done anymore? And I told him the reason why. He's like, no, I'm gonna need you. He was like, that's part of self-care, right? That's part of your therapy.
Okay,
So I'm
hold
gonna
on,
need you.
husband. Yeah, okay. Hold on. For the husband. Okay.
Like he be checking me. He was like, I'm gonna need you to get your nails done because that's part of your therapy, right? So
Okay.
and then today he was like, when is your appointment? So like he stays on top of me to make sure like I'm healthy and I'm happy, and he's
Okay.
constantly checking in with me to see how are you feeling today. If he notices maybe I'm not feeling so well, then he'll drop what he's doing no matter how busy he is, and he's like, all right, well, let's go out and do something.
Hmm.
Let's see if your parents want to go out to dinner with us. Let's do something.
Right.
He'll do his best to raise my spirits.
That is beautiful. So, wow. I mean, for all the men in the room, I mean, she is dropping these hints for you. So, family, self-care, and you mentioned the term work it, work in, dig in. What does that look like besides what are other things that have helped you when you
For
talked about,
me,
yeah, for you?
a lot of prayer,
Okay.
music, whatever music that is nourishing me and making me feel better. Not that sad, sappy music. No, you know what I mean? Like music is healing. Music,
Yes.
right? I love Christmas movies. No matter how bad I'm feeling, I watch a Christmas movie. A Christmas movie makes me feel all warm and cozy, right? Christmas movies. I go to the gym, I work out. Working out, it really helps my mental space, right? Getting outside, getting fresh air, spending time with family and friends, doing traveling through grief, just talking about how I'm feeling, getting it out, journaling, whether it's like a video journal of just something that I want to say or me writing it out, writing out prayers. Right now, I'm reading the whole Bible, right? So it's just doing these things that are cultivating my spirit that really helps me. Planning out my summer, even though it's March, planning out my summer, giving me something to look forward to, spending time with my daughter, like just doing things like that. Going to bed early.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Going to bed early or taking extra time out to do my daily self-care routine, cutting my hair off, something that I've been wanting to do. Like doing these things that just make me feel good, whatever it is.
Mm.
Finding a new hobby, learning how to swim. I haven't learned how to swim yet, but that's on my list of things that I want to do. Like just doing things to nourish me, whatever it is. And how I got there is because grief changed me, right? Like I was a different person before all of this happened. And now it's like I have to find out who I am again. So it's like along this grief journey, it's a journey of self-discovery, right?
Mm.
So all of these things are self-discovery. So with it, you have to get quiet and you have to isolate to really understand what it is that's going to help you work through your grief. It's different for everybody, but you gotta, like, that's when you gotta tap into yourself, right? Tap into yourself, talk to God, ask God to lead you, guide you, drop things in your spirit. That's what worked for me.
Those are some excellent tips. Prayer, music, moving, whether it's outside for a walk, the gym, fresh air, journaling, whether it's a video or written, cultivating friendships, relationships. The thing about the summer, planning the future, continuing to live, and giving yourself space to even develop a new hobby and
Mm-hmm.
rest. There is so much that the body is impacted from grief. And if we're
Mm-hmm.
not resting, we're exhausted, we're tired because the world keeps going. The world
Yeah.
doesn't pause.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did traveling through grief begin? And what is traveling through grief?
Traveling through grief is, well, it started as my personal journey. I'm not stuck in it, right? I'm determined not to be stuck in it. I have to travel through it.
Okay.
There's not like an end. I'm just getting through it, constantly moving through it because it ebbs and it flows. So I'm constantly traveling through my grief. So it just started as me talking about grief, my journey of grief. And then what happened unexpectedly is that, people, it started to resonate with people. And then it just became bigger than just me. It's not just me traveling through my grief, it's us as we travel through our grief. So it's not just the Instagram page now, it's the Facebook group. And like it's just like I haven't done it in a while, but grief counseling sessions with people, just helping them travel through their grief. So it just turned into something outside of myself. And like I'm not going to say oddly enough, but like you always know that, like, when, even if you're going through your own thing, helping somebody helps you to feel better, right? And before loss or anything ever happened to me, I used to write this quote by Maya Angelou, be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. I used to write that on post-its and give it to my coworkers. Because I'm like, be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Like I really love that saying. And that's sort of kind of what traveling through grief is, like a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. I am the light to show other people that you don't have to stay in darkness of grief. You don't. Like it's okay to be happy. It's okay to be happy. Like you have permission to be happy. You have permission to laugh after grief. Like you don't have to feel guilty, which a lot of people do. They feel guilty about continuing on with life when their loved ones are here. But it's like, for me, that's how I honor my son, is by living, is by showing my light.
Hmm.
Right? Like, so it's like he meant so much to me that he's giving me strength.
Wow.
to continue on and move,
Mm.
right? So like if I didn't do anything, like if I never started traveling through grief or anything, like I've helped a lot of people, right? None of that would have happened. So like just imagine if everybody who sees my page and is like, you know what? If she can do it, I can do it. And then they help somebody. That somebody helps somebody. That becomes
Yes.
a domino effect, right?
Yes.
So, I just want people to know like you don't like it's okay to live. It really is okay to live.
We do have to give ourselves permission
Hmm.
because nobody else can give that to you. You can go to a therapist, you can go to a psychologist, you can go to a grief counselor, but at the end of the day, it becomes you, like you said, sitting with yourself,
Hmm.
tapping into the inner part. You can take all the advice everybody's giving you, but the work in the end is something you have to do. And
Yeah.
you may have to give yourself permission every day for a whole year till you start buying into it because society has a way of saying that you should look like this when you're grieving. But when you
Yeah.
find out that that cookie cutter doesn't work for you,
It doesn't.
and that mold is broken, we should be better as a society considering how realistic it is that we only have one way out of this life, that we would
Yeah.
learn how to live and comfort those that are comforting.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
Yeah.
What happens in traveling through grief? I know you talked about you encourage people, but what is the interaction? Is it a private Facebook group? How does one join? What
So it's a
goes on in
private
it?
Facebook group. Private because like what's shared in there just need to stay in there because it's people's personal stories. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So that's why it's private. You know, grief is private, but personal. It's personal, public, but so the Facebook group is private, and then within the Facebook group we have our Zoom meetings, which we haven't had one in a while. So it's time for us to have one. But we have our Zoom meetings where whoever, like, it's just, I don't know how many members we have in the Facebook group, but it's like over 2,000 members in the
Okay.
Facebook group. And, I just sent out the post, whoever wants to join. It's not
Okay.
like we don't follow an agenda. So it's
Okay.
just, you just come and you share. If you need advice on something, get advice on something. If you're stuck in something, you're stuck on something. Every topic that we talk about isn't necessarily related to grief.
Oh, okay.
Some people will just talk about whatever. Like like no topic is off limits. Like we've talked about religion, we've talked about relationships. There was somebody, like it was unexpected, but somebody was just having a really rough week and her tire was flat. Like she was just having a lot of financial difficulties and she wasn't on there to ask for help. But because you're talking about the financial difficulties, you know what? Let's all take up a collection plate and bless you. You know what I mean? Because it's like a little family within the Facebook group. Because like you'll see, like people posting and you see the names, but
Yes.
when we do the Zoom meetings, you're able to put a face with the name.
Yes.
And then like it really is like a family reunion every time we meet again because it's like, hey, how you been doing? How's
Right.
this? How's that? So it's really nice.
Oh, wow. You mentioned about God. Is the group open to anyone of any different faith, or do they
Yeah.
have to be a Christian?
No. It's
Okay.
just you whatever, like you can join even if you haven't suffered loss. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
okay.
It's called traveling through grief, but it's just open to anybody. You don't have to believe what I believe. Your
Okay.
belief is your belief. I know
Okay.
what works for me, what works for you is what works for you.
Right. And also, this group started from the loss of your son. Is this open strictly to people who have lost children or
No, it's a
okay,
gamut of people, people who've lost spouses, children, parents, like just whatever type of loss.
okay.
Yeah.
2,000 people, how do you keep up with all of that?
It's Facebook. It's not hard.
Okay. It's a
You know what I mean?
you
Like
do
it's
it on
Facebook. Like occasionally it might be like some spammy people in there, but then like the people in the group will report them and then I'll just kick them out of the group.
Okay, they reacted like does not belong. Let's get rid of that right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
People are watching out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Like you
Yeah.
said, you would have never thought that this would have been the thing back in 2020. I'm sorry, 2019 that would have evolved to this. It
Mm-hmm.
really is encouraging that when people are in their worst moments, there is some beauty that can come out of it.
Yes. And then it also gives people like I'm blessed enough to have a strong support. But for people who don't have a strong support system, you pretty much have to try to find and create your own support system.
Yes.
So like joining groups like this is a really good starting point because like you meet people within these groups and then they become more than just a screen name. You know
Yes.
what I mean? They really do.
And that is important for people to understand they don't have to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
That you have a group that is available and no cost, if I hear that correctly.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
To,
no, it's no cost to the Zoom meeting or like any of it, you know? Like it's just there for you.
well,
That's it.
it's a choice. Thank you. Thank you for being so open and transparent and willing to have this conversation. I have, I think, 3 questions left for you.
Mm-hmm.
One, do you have any questions of me? I'll give you an opportunity to flip that around a little bit.
So,
Oh, she came
Miss
ready. Okay.
Tina, what started your all of this with you with widowhood?
It was the death. Well, I would say the conception of it was when my husband died,
And how
but
long ago was that?
2017. Actually, we're recording this now on March 4th, but on the 11th, we'll make 7 years since Mark has died.
Mhm.
But when he died, this was the furthest thing from my mind. But the catalyst that started this, I have remarried, and my current husband had a cousin who died.
Mhm.
And I reached out to the widow on the day of his birthday, and I saw the post on Facebook, and I said, "Hey, I want to reach out and say hello." And she said, "I'll talk to you tomorrow." I said, "But if you want to talk to me today, you can, because I envision that first birthday of my husband." And your girl usually takes like by 8 p.m., I'm sideways. I'm over there like, I don't know what
Mhm.
y'all talking, what we doing. But I know how many people showed up for me when that happened and how many widows showed up because they knew that space. And
Mhm.
I was probably on the phone with her 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And when I finished the conversation with her, I could hear guys saying, "What about the next person?" I was like, "Ain't nobody talking to nobody else this late. I mean, well, I don't know what you're talking about." And
Mhm.
it was just pressing on me that there are so many people that I found out that are doing this alone. You and I happen to have an amazing support group, but you have probably found out that is not the norm.
Yes.
And that is saddening to me. And God had just laid out this organization in my head what to do in between the 3 lanes in which we support people. So social media content and then the podcast. Because you and I both know when you're grieving, you're up at the most ridiculous time just scrolling on the internet like ain't nobody's business. You on tickety talk, Facebook, Instagram, all
Ah,
you get going
sleep
through
is like what?
exactly. So what would that look like for one, the people that are grieving to ear hustle into a conversation where someone's going to hear this at 2 o'clock in the morning that lost their son, maybe in that first week, and go, "How did she do that?" They're writing down all those different things that you list. They may take 1 or 2 or 3, but now they have a benchmark. You and I can't have this whole conversation with every 2,000 people that's in your group,
Yeah.
but them hearing this conversation gives them more fidelity on how you were able to travel through grief. So my podcast is not a 20-minute conversation, nip it in, get it real quick, da 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 da. Because that's not what I wanted at 2 o'clock in the morning. I wanted the whole story. Who is this
Yeah.
person? Why do I want it? And then it's like, so to create conversations where also the person that's not grieving, the sibling, the family member that goes, they haven't acted right since such and such died. shouldn't they be better by now? That's what they're thinking, because when you don't sit in that front row, you don't know the level of exhaustion,
Yeah.
all the phone calls you have to make, all the unpacking, unraveling of life. But for people to say, okay, you don't understand how I feel, listen to this podcast because this is a conversation with her sister or her cousin or somebody else that talked about it, then it becomes a tool for other
Yeah.
people to use on how to support somebody
Mm-hmm.
that, like, they're still grieving 4 years later. Oh,
Yeah.
I know, but you know how many people thinking, well,
I listen, for all you people out there, it's gonna be 20 years later, and guess what? I'ma still be grieving. I'ma
exactly.
grieve the loss of my son until I take my last breath. You hear me?
Yes. And people need to know that. But the person that's in that deep sorrow, they don't have the capacity to articulate and explain what they need. They may have listened to the whole podcast, but they can share that with a friend and go, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so that was birthed from that conversation with my husband's cousin. And there are other things that we do to help people, but it was that conversation with her and realizing how amazing my tribe has been and how many people are out there going through the most horrific moment of their life alone. And I love that there are so many different ways to help people. Um, Even though I asked a lot of questions, I am a part of your group, Traveling with
Mhm.
Grief, but it was for everyone to
Yeah.
get those details. So to be able to help each other as we're helping people, because unfortunately, there's 100,000 more people dying every day because it's just the nature of the world we live in, not
Yeah.
even to add a global pandemic and other things, that there are
Yeah.
people every day losing a loved one and they
Hmm.
shouldn't have to struggle by themselves.
You don't you don't, but you don't have to. I think like especially now in the age of technology and all of these different social platforms, it's accessing help is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like you may be a person who is hard for you to reach out for help, but if you don't take that step, nothing is going to change, right?
Yeah.
So like you have to take the first step in reaching out to get help.
But you're right. That first step can feel so daunting, but
Hmm.
there's life is on the other side of that first step.
It is. It is.
It
Yep.
is.
And as much as I guess as hard as it is for you to reach out for help, on the other end of that is somebody who can't wait for you to reach out to them so they can help you.
This is where you want to slide into somebody's DM. This is where you want to slide
Yes.
in to
Yep.
somebody and give them a message
Yeah.
and tell them how difficult it is and
Yep.
what's going on, and then take that step
Mm-hmm.
afterwards.
Yep.
Any other questions of me?
No question, but I just want to say that you are such a source of inspiration. And I want to thank you for the work that you are doing because you really are helping people and you are changing people's lives. So, for that, I want to say thank you for what you're doing and I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, thank you. Two more questions. If you could pick any time in your life, what time would you pick and what would you tell yourself? You have to look back in the past and pick
Uh-huh.
any date, timeline, or whatever and give yourself advice. What would it be?
Give myself advice. I would go back to sometime when I was a younger mother. So like maybe sometime between 18 and 22 and tell myself, slow down and just enjoy because life moves fast. Yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
That is some good advice. What gives you joy?
My family, my friends, my alone time.
I'm down with that. Thank you for this conversation. Actually, I have one more question. If there's anything that you thought that we should cover that we didn't in this conversation.
Um, I think you pretty much covered everything. But
Okay.
You said something that stood out to me, something about somebody who's like deep in their sorrow,
Yes.
right? So if somebody who is watching this and you're deep in your sorrow, just take one step, right? So the journey of healing, not that there's an end part, but just healing in terms of feeling better, it starts with a baby step. I mean, baby step, right? I mean, today you just in the bed crying. Tomorrow you might be in the bed, not make it out the bed, but you're not crying. The next day you might make it out the bed and just get to the couch. Next day you might shower, right? Next day you might take a bite of food. So baby steps, baby steps. You don't have to try to come up out of it just today I'm sad and I'm crying and then tomorrow I'm gonna feel better. No, it's a lot that happens between crying and smiling. It's a whole lot of crying, fighting, pulling. Like, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. But you have to take the step, like one step into another, into another. It will lead to a domino effect. And eventually you will realize that you're starting to feel better. If you cannot do it by yourself, please get help, right? You can reach out to Tina. You can reach out to me. If you need therapy resources, hit me up in my DM. I can give you some therapy resources. Like, there is help. You do not have to struggle, and you do not have to struggle alone. You don't. Like, God has placed us, me and Tina, here to be a light for the people who are in darkness. Let us illuminate you, please. That's it.
That is wonderful. And thank you for what you're doing, because you could have chosen to do this a different way. You could have chosen to do everything on your list and said, I'm fine. Let me go live my life and I'm good with it. But you chose to open up your travels to other people. Thank you for doing that. And it's for all the people traveling through grief that are going to watch this podcast. You have an amazing person that is leading your group and praying for you, giving you her heart and her soul, and trusting God for all the healing that you need. And I am grateful to have gotten to know her myself. I will let you close out this podcast with any final comments.
No final comments. Just stay tuned to what Tina got going on, because she got it going on.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.